Hello everyone, this is David Smith from Game Careers. Very pleased to have with me Wright Bagwell, Director of Design from Farmville 2, from the mighty Zynga. Wright, please could you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Wright Bagwell. I'm a game designer at Zynga, and I'm the Director of Design for Farmville 2, as you said. I've been working in games since about 1997. I got into games by doing it as a hobby. It was just a passion of mine, and it's driven me for a long time. I love the process of design. I love making games. I think it's, I can't think of another job that you could do where you're exposed to so much breadth of talent, both technical and artistic talent, and great business entrepreneurs as well.
And tell us more about Zynga.
So I've been at Zynga for a couple of years now, and I have to say I really enjoy it. Zynga's focus is it's on bringing people together through games. So what I really find great about Zynga is that it brings me back to what I think games were originally, way long ago, before people had single-player experiences on computers. It was all about bringing people together, and games really serve an important role in society, that it does get people to communicate. It teaches you things about how to interact with people. And so Zynga's main focus is on people in the games and social games. Games like Words with Friends have become so popular in the mainstream because of the way it brings people together. We've heard stories about people actually finding partners for marriage through these games, just building relationships through these games. And we've heard stories about families being united through some of these games. And so I think it's actually a really exciting time that there's this big focus now on mobile and social games, because they actually bring people together to play.
And perhaps you could tell us a bit more about your design role at Zynga, and maybe your career history, how you came to be working at Zynga in the first place?
Sure. In the mid-90s, I was in graduate school. I was working on my PhD in neuroscience, and I got really hooked on Quake. And so I started actually making Quake levels as a hobby and little Quake mods. And this was at the time when 3D really sort of took off. And there was a big demand for level designers who could make 3D levels. And so a couple of the levels I put out became very popular, and I started getting notes from some game companies saying, hey, do you want to come out and make games? And actually that seemed a lot more exciting than finishing up my doctorate degree. So I put that on hold, and I moved to Seattle to work for Cavedog. And I've never really thought about going back to neuroscience. I love making games so much. So I worked at Cavedog for a couple of years on a title that never saw the light of day, unfortunately. It was a great learning experience. Went from there, spent a year at Valve. And from Valve I went to EA and spent 11 years there. Worked on a lot of shooters, most of the James Bond games that came out. And then became the creative director for the Dead Space franchise in the end. And there was a point in my career where I realized that I really wanted to get back to basics. That, as I said, Zynga's really focused on games that are really just about, bringing people together, and that it's not about the game, it's about the people and playing with people. So I really wanted to get back to that, and I had the opportunity, after I finished up on Dead Space 2, and I have to say, I think it's been a great move. I came in, I just sort of learned the ropes, spent some time doing a couple different things around the company, and then we started planning Farmville 2, which has been a massive success. And
why would you say Zynga is a great place to work?
I think Zynga is a great place to work for a few reasons. Number one, I feel like there's a strong culture of entrepreneurship at Zynga. Everybody is really interested in taking risks and trying to learn new things about games. I feel like a lot of times, because of the difficulty and the cost and the risk in making games, the industry has become very risk averse. And I see Zynga as a company that is actually quite eager to take risks and try new things. So that's very exciting, especially for a creative person. Creative people love to take risks. They want to try new things. The other thing that's great is I think that there's so much interest in not only trying new types of games, but also kind of new business models. And it's really nice to feel like we are trying to pioneer new ways to reach out to customers, and just make sure that we're not ever sort of sitting back and saying, well, we've got something established, we'll just keep doing that. We keep trying to push ourselves to try new things.
And finally, Richard, what advice would you give a job seeker looking to apply for a games design role at Zynga?
I would say the most important thing for a game designer is to demonstrate that you've tried to make games, or that you have made games, whether it's a mod for an existing game or a simple little mobile phone game, anything that you can do to actually put yourself through the process of coming up with an idea, building it and making it happen, and then learning how to finish, learning how to finish up the details of something, get to the point where you're happy with it, and let go of it so that you can get feedback and learn from it. The one thing I think that's really important for game designers is oftentimes young game designers come into the industry and they think, oh, now I've been given this role as a game designer. This means I finally get to make the game that I want to make. So I'll just kind of sit down, I'll write it up, and then we'll just make it. And I think it's actually important to realize that it's incredibly difficult to make games. It's just harsh reality. They're expensive, they're very difficult to make, and it's very difficult to get a hit. And so I think it's just a great piece of advice for game designers to learn that that when you come in early on, it's really important to learn about being able to communicate and being able to work with a group. That's the most difficult part of game design. It's not coming up with the idea, it's having the experience to work with a group to bring something to life.
Wright Bagwell, Director of Design for Zynga in San Francisco, thank you very much.
Okay.